Hello and welcome to another episode of a Wrestling Rewind. I'm Wolf on the Internet, and in this episode I'll be reviewing the first episode of Monday Night Raw from January 11th of 1993. This Raw opens with Sean Mooney on the streets of New York, describing a mob-like scene that had taken place earlier as everyone was trying to get last-minute tickets to the first episode of Monday Night Raw. While he's describing this, Bobby Heenan shows up and is surprised to learn from Mooney that he will not be on commentary for the evening. Instead, Rob Bartlett is. The commentary team, which we throw to at this point inside, is Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, and Rob Bartlett. This would have been a much better team if Heenan had been on it. Allegedly, Rob Bartlett replaced Bobby Heenan, who thought he would be on the commentary team. And I think that would have made it stronger, because Bartlett, while not horrible, didn't add very much. And kind of just went with Vince McMahon whenever Vince McMahon would do weird things that didn't quite add to the story. And Randy Savage, while entertaining, would often just kind of say things that weren't entirely related or not entirely helping push the product forward again, which is something that Heenan has always been good at. And so I think it might have served the show better to have actually had Heenan on commentary instead of in these skits with Sean Mooney throughout the night. But at this point, the show opens really with the first match ever on Monday Night Raw, which is Koko B. Ware versus Yokozuna. Yokozuna comes out with his full entrance with Mr. Fuji. The match makes him look very intimidating. He's very strong. He's undefeated at this point. Koko B. Ware is kind of bumping like a madman for him, making him look really powerful, strong. The commentary team, though, is the weak point in this match, as instead of really focusing on Yokozuna being undefeated or being a monster or anything like that, instead, sort of ring-led by Vince McMahon, they focus on calling Yokozuna fat and talking about how Yokozuna is fat and talking about how Yokozuna just likes to eat. Which, at least in my opinion, was not the way to sort of advertise and try to build a wrestler who, at this point, they had to have already been planning to be in the main event of WrestleMania that year. So I felt like it was really strangely handled, and I would think that maybe if Heenan had been on the team, he could have guided it more. I didn't feel like Bartlett was necessarily bad, but again, I feel like Heenan might have been able to corral Vince maybe some. And I think that would have been better overall for building the wrestlers that needed to be built. At this point, we get a promo hyping the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, which is just in a couple of weeks. It's a pretty basic promo, but it's there, which I think is good that the Royal Rumble was coming on soon. It gave Raw, when it launched, something to really build to. It was the entry to WrestleMania season, and that usually leads to a lot of storylines going on, and I think this was actually a really good time in the year for the WWE to have launched a television show. At this point, we actually see a video pre-recorded of Bobby Heenan cutting a promo against Mr. Perfect. This is setting up a match that will happen in a few weeks on Raw between Flair and Mr. Perfect that hasn't been announced at this point, but will be a loser leaves the company match. And so Heenan is being used in the build-up, siding with Flair, being his manager, to sort of promote this feud that will eventually lead to what was a big blow-off match early in Raw's history. The next match features the Steiner brothers versus the Executioners. The Executioners really didn't do anything for me in this match. They were just kind of there. But the Steiner brothers were very impressive. They were very athletic. They're very cohesive tag team at this point. And they seem to be being built at this point to move up the tag team ladder in the WWF at this time. At this point, we go back to the streets with Sean Mooney again, and he runs into Rob Bartlett's aunt, who is Bobby Heenan, dressed up as revealed when Sean takes off Heenan's wig. So this sort of is the first in a series of skits where Heenan impersonates different people, really just Bartlett's aunt and uncle to try to get into the stadium. At this point, we go back to the ring where Vince McMahon is interviewing Razor Ramon. He's talking about the title match at the Royal Rumble. Razor Ramon will be facing Bret Hart, who is the WWF champion at this point. They're talking about the fact that Razor had jumped Owen Hart, Bret's brother, prior to this. And Razor's just really playing up his sense of superiority to the Hart family. At this point, we see a video of Tatanka promoting Headlocks for Hunger, which was apparently at this point a charitable event of some kind that was raising money for Somalian hunger relief. And then when we get back to that, we see Shawn Michaels actually putting his Intercontinental Championship on the line against Max Moon. I was not familiar with Max Moon until this. Max Moon is a man in a blue bodysuit with what appear to be circuits and the like all about. Max Moon challenging for the IC title here looks like what someone in the 1950s would have thought someone from 1993 would look like. And I don't know if it was just me, but I actually really enjoyed the ridiculousness that was Max Moon in this match, and felt like he showed a lot of charisma and stuff, and was actually fairly interesting, although obviously Michaels had a lot to do with that. But Moon did definitely do his part, and seemed to play off Shawn better in this match than Shawn's former tag team partner and Royal Rumble opponent Marty Jannetty would in a video response later tonight. At this point, they ran an ad for WWF Mania, which was another television show that WWF was doing at this time. And later in the night, they actually ran one for WWF Superstars. It's interesting to me that they seem to have like quite a bit of television going on at this point, actually. And it's really interesting, and I think they were able to maintain so many TV shows at this point because the TV shows were shorter. This is a 1 hour episode of Raw, which I don't know if it was just me, but is a lot easier to watch than a 3 hour episode of Raw. I think personally I would enjoy segment by segment for the most part Raw in 2016, at least the good parts, better than Raw in 1993. But as a whole, walking away from a 1 hour episode versus a 3 hour episode, it just leaves you wanting more. And I realize with the sponsors and everything and all the ad money they're getting, the WWF is never going to go back probably to a shorter format. But I really think the longer formats hurt the watchability of both Raw and to a lesser extent SmackDown, which is a 2 hour show. I think if both were a 2 hour show, it would help a lot. At this point, Mean Gene presents what he's calling his Royal Rumble report. This is where he officially announces that Shawn Michaels will face Marty Jannetty for the IC title at the Royal Rumble. A Marty Jannetty video airs at this point. In what's clearly supposed to be a big-time rivalry. But honestly, Marty Jannetty just kind of doesn't have enough of something to make me care, I guess. I'm not sure. He seemed like one of the least interesting people on this episode of Raw. Even with the storyline he obviously had with Michaels. At this point, Mean Gene also announces several of the Royal Rumble competitors: Ric Flair, Tatanka, IRS, Bob Backlund, Jerry Lawler, Mr. Perfect. Quite a few big names. And they promote Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon being for the WWF Championship. At this point, we cut once again to a Sean Mooney and Bobby Heenan skit. This is the one where Bobby Heenan is pretending to be Rob Bartlett's uncle. In what is the last match on the card, The Undertaker faces Damien Demento. And I feel like here, commentary actually did their job a lot better. They made it come across that The Undertaker was a big deal, that he was dominant, that he was important. They did, at this point, everything they should have done also for Yokozuna, but didn't, because they had to talk for a few minutes about how he was fat. This is a relatively short match. It's not much to talk about, but I really think it's interesting to see that the commentary team could build up a superstar, but didn't always feel like it, I guess, at this point, which is strange to me. After this, Vince McMahon interviews Doink the Clown, who has a feud with Crush going on right now, where Doink the Clown has been making children cry, and Crush doesn't like that, basically. This feud will actually continue and ultimately culminate at WrestleMania, which is interesting. Of all of the things that are going on this card, I don't think this is the thing that if you had asked someone at the time, they would be like, oh yeah, that's a WrestleMania match. And this is followed by the last thing we are shown for the night, which is Sean Mooney going up to security and telling them that actually, yes, they can let Bobby Heenan go in now. The joke being that Bobby Heenan doesn't realize that the reason he's being allowed to go in is that the show is over. Overall, I found this episode actually pretty enjoyable. I think the 1 hour format did help with that a lot. I thought the superstars sort of all shown. There were obviously a lot of big names on this episode. Yokozuna, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker. And their star power really shone through. The only downside of this episode to me was the commentary team, which I felt like could have used someone to kind of wrangle it, or better yet, could have used someone other than Vince McMahon on commentary. Those are my opinions. Share your own opinions of the episode in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to see more of Wrestling Rewind. I'm going to start putting these out every Thursday is the plan at this point, with the possibility of more throughout the week, but Thursday is the night there will definitely be an episode for now. So until the next episode, I'm Will from the Internet, and thank you for watching.